person.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
That is so crazy.
Her husband was my workout partner all through college, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to tell her that I finally got to have like somewhat of a face-to-face time with you.
That is so cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, I was like, why don't you just get it from him? She's like, nope, he makes sure that we go through the coaching community. So thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Nevaeh.
That's cool that you didn't know.
Well, okay, I have a newborn and a toddler, so I really don't know much of anything these days. So let's just kind of chalk that one up as a loss. But no, I did the Shakeology Surge with Jamie Shepard and you. It was like a really awesome, like 3-4 hour event. We sucked your whole life away for a night. But that was like my favorite call with you ever. And I don't think we talked about that on there. Whatever. Anyways. We will bring a little piece of home to you tonight from Minnesota. Everybody on this call right now is from your hometown, but we're live in the group now. We've prefaced them a little bit that we're going to be talking. So I just, first of all, obviously want to thank you for your time because we really cannot tell you how much it means to us to have you speak to us because we try to relay the importance of this part of our life. It's really our lifestyle. We've all adapted to it as much as we can, but I think hearing it from you is just a whole different ball game. And I kind of just want to hand it over to you. I know we kind of had some questions sent over to you, but you, whatever you want to roll with, go for it.
All right, awesome. Well, if I had a hat on, my hat would be off to all the Minnesota people. So I'm stoked for that. I graduated from the University of St. Thomas, and the day after I left, because in 1994 there was a week of 60 to 90 below, and I was like, "That's it, I'm good, I'm out." So, but the beautiful thing is, my journey literally started. I'll give you a little history. My journey literally started in Minnesota, obviously, but where it really amped up was in college when I was playing. I was actually playing fullback for Augsburg College in Minneapolis, and I got hurt. So that career-ending injury as a sophomore changed everything. So I couldn't get better. I couldn't start playing again. So instead of kind of staying depressed, I said, I'm going to learn about this stuff, and I'm going to learn to get myself better, because growing up, obviously, in Minnesota, I wasn't given the tools of learning how to kind of be our own health care providers. And I think we all need to be a health care provider for ourselves and not give our power away. But that's a whole nother tangent. But so then I transferred to the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, and then I changed my major to physiology, kinesiology, nutrition, all of that stuff. And that's where it just turned on for me, and the miracle that we get to live in every day and experience this life. It was very clear to me once I started learning that in order to live a life that I truly wanted to have, I needed to take responsibility for myself and my life and my health, because no one else was going to do that. And certainly looking at how people were degrading over time based on what they're eating and working out or not working out, I just wasn't into it. It just didn't make sense to me. So the more I learned, the more I applied, and the more I applied, the more I started playing with these things, and then eventually traveling around the world, because you guys all can relate. Well, some of you, in the sense, I grew up in a small farming community, and my father was a professor at the University of Minnesota, ag professor. So I was, in my DNA were farmers and that kind of thing. So I spent then, this professional career running around the planet. That's why superfood hunting, that's why all this stuff happened, because I just wanted to meet the farmers of these special herbs, botanicals, that can contribute so much compared to, say, a regular food, right? And that's really what superfoods are. Every bite you take is getting more nutrients per a donut, right? So if I'm eating goji berries, they're giving more nutrients as it relates calorie for calorie than a burger at McDonald's or whatever. So some of these questions I'm kind of answering as I'm going, but it's really like, our whole world has gotten so good at producing food, but producing it in a volume way, but not a quality way. So the micronutrients over time, and this isn't just me talking, this is from the early 1900s, our Congress knew by agricultural research that our soils were depleted, that our food was then depleted and tested later. So we knew, years and years ago that our food wasn't what it was supposed to be. So here's the thing. If you don't have micronutrients, and I'm not talking carbs, proteins, and fats, of course you need those, but those are the macronutrients. I'm talking about antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, the things that are actually interacting, communicating to your cells, the things that are interacting, communicating to the microbiome, the healthy bacteria in the guts, all of these things. This is the whole game. Mm-hmm. If we don't support the cellular environment of our body, I don't care what fad you bought into, or you're afraid of carbs, or you need more protein, all this kind of craziness. If you're not contributing to the health of the cells, then you really will break down eventually. The cells need to be healthy. So I love the fact that, you guys told me a little bit about the health is not just drinking the shake. Mm-hmm. Health is drinking really good water. Health is balanced food, not buying into fads, and having healthy relationships, getting a lot of sleep. Mm-hmm. These things are the pillars of health. Why then did I end up, contributing and formulating Shakeology? Well, I was set out to find these botanicals because of those problems we're having. We are volume filled of food, micronutrient deprived. Mm-hmm. So for me, the more I travel, the more I realize the greatest botanicals in the world are out there, some of which in the corners of the globe. So we are in this kind of Star Trek world where we have access, but we are deprived of what is essential for us to thrive. And so that's where kind of going back out to the indigenous people and to what has been used. Some of these botanicals in this formulation of Shakeology have been used for tens of thousands of years. And we're talking traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda. I mean, astragalus and Ayurveda and the Indian principles are used for 10, 20,000 years. Like Schizandra in traditional Chinese medicine, which is also in Shakeology as an adaptogen, this has been used for 10,000 years. We're not making stuff up, right? So we're following, one of the great teachers of mine that I studied with. He says, observe nature, and if it's synergistic with nature, then that's what you want to follow. So obviously, the healthcare providers of this world, they're smart people, but they're off on a different tangent. They're off on this place where there's no health care that's going on. It's just disease management. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to manage my disease as I live a life. I want to kick some ass. I want to be healthy and happy. And we all know if the body is congested and suffering and sick, it's tired, it's weak. And what happens then? Well, that affects our brain. So it's hard to dream and take action on that dream and live the life that you want if your body's, suffering. So that really is the cornerstone of what Isabel and I did, and take responsibility for. If Carl's going to hand us this baton and say, go do this, because by the way, he didn't give us a restriction on cost. He said, just do it right and I'll worry about selling it. That was literally the conversation back in 2006. And he made a promise to Isabel, then to myself, that he's not going to compromise on that quality. And I'll get into quality a little bit and why we're different and why it's way beyond a protein shake. So that's the theos behind, that was the intention behind the shake. So we took that on and said, listen, people are suffering from a lack of micronutrient food. We need to get the best botanicals, get them in a safe way, get them in a potency that we can try to know every farmer, try to understand that quality and get that to people so that they can at least get a boost of what their cells really require. And then it's perfect from what you're saying. You have to be integrated. You have to be eating well and doing all those other things in order to feel the best that you can. So Shakeology is not a magic bullet. Mm-hmm. It's not this thing that's going to solve all your problems, right? This is a complementary thing that we require in terms of the botanicals and the nutrient-rich food that we don't necessarily get, right? We don't get it unless you're growing your own and it's clean and it doesn't have glyphosates and pesticides and you're harvesting it and putting it in your mouth. We all are lacking micronutrients. We all are. I eat pretty damn good and I pay a lot of money because it's worth it to me to buy the best food and to support my local farmers in my area. And I sure as shit I'm still going to drink Shakeology because I know what's in it, right? And I've worked my ass off and our team has worked our ass off to make sure it's great. So why is it great and what's the difference? So again, it's providing that missing link for micronutrients that we're just not getting. That's the kind of the cornerstone of why we put this together. And what it's not, like I said, is a magic bullet. We don't have artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners, none of that crap. It's easy to make something taste really good when you use that stuff. And a lot of that stuff is hidden. A lot of that stuff is hidden in the flavoring systems. Even another flavoring system that says, oh, it's natural flavor, it still has unwanted, potentially carcinogenic materials in there that are okay by the FDA. This is one level that we peeled back and we weren't okay with. So yes, we have natural, no artificial flavors, but we also have a whole list of things we still won't allow in as a flavor in Shakeology and creating that whole thing. So we have to demand to the flavor companies what we won't accept, even under the natural flavor protocols. Okay, so that's one little but very important aspect that you won't see if you just turn over a bag and you say, oh, that has natural flavor and that has natural flavor. It doesn't mean much because the FDA still allows for certain things to get in there, which is not in our best interest as customers. So 0 GMO ingredients. We don't accept any. All of our suppliers, we just don't accept them. So they know that's part of our protocol, part of our quality assurance.
Here's a kicker that always gets me because I love the non-GMO. I love that you are so passionate about where it's all sourced. Just today, actually, I got it's not FDA approved. And
no supplement ever can be FDA.
Right, but even if it could be, what really gets my goat about that is like, look what is FDA approved nowadays.
Yeah.
Like, how is that your determining factor of what you're putting in your body? That's how misled though we are.
It's true. there's a lot of dangerous products and packages and bottles and cans that in the food world that you really should not be consuming in any way, in any form. We have pesticide food all over the place, and it's causing a lot of problems, and the problems are showing up not in a linear way. It's in a non-linear way with degeneration of people's digestive systems and inflammatory responses. So that's the trick with some of these bad food systems, bad supplements. You don't necessarily get hit in the face by drinking it once or consuming it. You over time, these things beat you up, and you don't know where it's coming from because, so yes, quality standards are super, super important. So a little bit of that. Obviously, we have a lot of things in Shakeology, so it takes a lot of people. We have all the prebiotics and probiotics that are tested to make sure they get and seed into the small intestine. And if you want to do a little homework, look at the microbiome. Look at the very vital aspect of how the bacteria in the gut is largely giving you your attitude. And I didn't make a mistake by saying that. It's giving you your attitude, right? So by your environment, it's producing 90% of the serotonin in your overall system. So only 10% is coming from the brain, and that's that feel-good molecule. So if you have a diet poor in nutrients, poor in fiber, high in fat and meat and all these things, that's going to change that microbiome. So that's why we put pre and probiotics in the formula to support a healthy, powerful microbiome, because and enzymes we put in there too, because those two things represent what? They represent the idea that it's not necessarily just you are what you eat, because it's yes, that's true, but it's what you absorb, right? So your body, if it's inflamed, if you don't have the proper enzymes, if you don't have the proper seeding of bacteria, then your body will not be able to have the constituents to be able to break down the food to absorb it anyway. So very important thing. Obviously, antioxidants, phytonutrients. The adaptogens are incredibly important in Shakeology in the formula, and these guys are some of my favorite. Chaga mushrooms, ashwagandha, astragalus, schizandra, cordyceps, reishi, maca. All of these things are, in a nutshell, help your body and your being deal with stress in a myriad of different ways. Okay, super important in this day and age. Those things, if you want to do a little homework, spend 5 minutes and look up one of these adaptogens. Look up schizandra, look up ashwagandha, look up astragalus, and allow yourself to take 5 minutes and blow your mind with how powerful these herbs are. Okay, so let's step into the quality again, because our time is cruising. These are all great preemptive questions here. So quality assurance, right? So the biggest thing, again, I kind of said it in the beginning. The reason I got into this was because there was a need in the marketplace. Quality was suspect. I didn't know where things were coming from, so I needed to show up. That's what got me going. Even before Beachbody, it started seeing, and then the more I saw, the more I realized how bad the supplement world out there is, and there's very little oversight. Yes, people are checking the boxes, but they're not really. Most companies don't even know where their stuff is really coming from. They're buying it from brokers, and it's just a commodity that they're buying, or they're trying to, lay claim to it's just as good as Shakeology, and they're grabbing the same ingredients. It doesn't really mean anything. It does on the back of the label, but it doesn't really mean anything. So our quality assurance goes all the way to the processors, the growers in the countries of origin. You have to understand that we are coming from so many countries around the globe, and some of these with some of these botanicals. We've got, Schizandra coming from the lower Tibetan sovereign area of China. You've got maca coming from 15,000 feet in Peru. You've got astragalus coming from the middle to lower regions of India. You've got all kinds of, and every botanical is a story of how it got there. So it's very important. Here's our quality. Our team, way beyond me, goes out with their eyes, with our people, making sure and testing. We're meeting the people, we're testing the processing, we're testing the quality control, we're testing what we don't want in the ingredients, right? Pesticides, herbs, herbicides, GMOs, test all of those things. And then the other side of it, the other flip is we test what we want in there. So there's certain active compounds that you have to be very careful with when you're growing something, when you're processing something, when you're drying something, that then it's in a powder form, right? So you have to be very aware of each botanical, its own sensitivities. You can't just grow it and pulverize it and dry it and throw it in a bag. So we test for active constituents in every ingredient. So we're testing for what isn't there, what we don't want there, and we're testing for the active compounds that we want there. And that's going on and needs to be proved from the countries of origin. And also a lot of those places around the world, they fail. These audits, right? They fail them because they're not at our standards. So we have to go in, spend time and money to improve sometimes third world situations so that they can be an ingredient in Shakeology. So there's millions of dollars that go into some of those processes. So then once something's audited and the process is approved of a said ingredient, then it's shipped to the United States, then it's quarantined to then retest to make sure that in that transport, it's all proven that it's the botanical that we want, that it has the active compounds in it, that it has the fingerprint. Each botanical has a fingerprint that we take through a spectrometer. So then once it passes all those tests, then it can kind of move into the place of, okay, it's approved, it's ready. And then through a careful coming together mixing process, that's really what the alchemy of all of that stuff, the shelf life testing, the interactions that the botanicals have to one another in the formula. You have no idea the amount of time, energy, and money that Beachbody puts into all that stuff. And that really is a multi-million-dollar aspect and a non-sexy aspect of just having a safe and effective product. That is your biggest difference, because most people are just throwing botanicals in a bag and then calling it whatever, but they don't have the research, the backing up, the safety standards, the quality standards that we have. So that's kind of a journey of an ingredient that then, from all of those places around the world and all of those testings and all of those auditings from all of those individual places from around the world, and then it shows up and then it's put together and then it's sent out to you. And this botanical that was once on a mountaintop is now safely and effectively at your doorstep. And that's a very, very incredible situation to handle, right? And to make, it's years of our team. It's funny because it's a lot of work. And so whenever we're in meetings and there's people, having hard time, making sure these ingredients are, we have enough, we have to expand. I always say, I'm sorry, but it's job security that this is a hard formula to keep in existence. So it's like
this is why the crap that I used to buy at GNC was $30 a bag, and this is totally why. If people, I wish they could write this on the ingredients list.
Yeah, but this is I wish too, but this is where this is where we need to tell you.
Mhm.
I mean, how many products do you get to buy for your family, your friends, your children, that you get to talk to the formulator, me and Isabel, about your product? I mean, how many other things do you feel that safe about? I mean, start looking around all these labels. Just because you've been consuming something for a long time or it's been around a lot doesn't mean it's safe, right? So start questioning all of what you're putting in your mouth, because it's such a vulnerable thing. And this is why we have such a standard protocols and over and above the quality assurance and quality standards that we have. We just have to, right? And there's a reason why I'm still around. If it wasn't, like, I'm not an employee of Beachbody. I've never been an employee of Beachbody. I'm hired by Beachbody. So if they weren't abiding by these principles, I got plenty of things I can do. I wouldn't be around. I'm not going to put my, ass on the line for things that I don't believe in. So, that's the thing. Can you run around and try to find, products that are cheaper and all that stuff? Yeah, but you have no idea what you're getting. And I'm honestly telling you, from one person to another, I've been behind the scenes in the supplement world long enough to know that I know products out there right now that I know the ingredients are contaminated. I know it because I know all of the suppliers, and it's tough. And this is kind of the Wild West. So unless you have a company with the integrity, and I'm not saying we're the only ones, but in this instance, with this amount of ingredients, I don't know of anyone else doing what we're doing. So that's the nutshell of the quality story, because that's and we're really passionate. We have amazing people like real people. Mike Wilson, who's the head of our R&D, Richard Andrew, who's the head of kind of all things Shakeology. And then you have Aaron Morton, the head of our quality assurance. These guys are badasses, right? So their jobs are to protect the formula and protect you and protect our customers. So that's something that, people say, can you talk about the expensive, how expensive Shakeology is? Like, you know what? It's actually cheap. From what I know, on a mountaintop of this ingredient in my hand gets into that bag, and all of the stuff we put into it, it's kind of cheap. So that's my argument. I tell them bits of this story that hopefully you can grab parts of it, and tell them that. And that's no BS. That's just straight up what we do. And it's an important part of the story. So.
I mean, I love that. I wanted to pause you for a second too. I mean, you're covering everything we kind of sent you already, and I really appreciate that. But you guys, if you have not read this book, and this is cool to hear you say this. I mean, like I said on that surge, it was mind blowing, and I've heard you at Summit, and I've read this book and hearing you again, and it really is something that you have to hear multiple times for it to sink in and for you to value it. But I love this book because you're so brilliant that I love that you speak so scientifically, but I know it will go over some people's heads, but I kind of like that because it'll challenge them. But this book is really cool because at the end of every chapter, it gives you a to-do list. And that was my beginning phase. It was like, okay, I didn't get half of maybe what a lot of those words were or what it said or meant, but I got something I can do and I can apply. And it made me feel like I could start to take the steps to get to where I am now 4 years later, truly realizing the value in this. So I really appreciate that book and everything that you do. And you are too smart for your own good, but you are able to make it so we all understand it too. So we can explain it to our loved ones, like you said, because we don't get to talk to the people that create our foods ever. And that's a special thing.
I appreciate that. And I always, in the back of my mind, is when I was writing the book, and when I'm able to talk, I'm talking as if I'm talking to the people in my hometown, you know, and that's because there was a point in writing the book, like the ego was like, okay, I want to impress this other author. I want to impress this other. So get really heavy. I'm like, what's the point of that? I want to get it so that people can understand it and impact their lives. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
I love it.
Well, hopefully that was good for you guys.
It was amazing. We really, really appreciate your time, and we're ready to get back to the forces and kind of share what you shared with us, with the people next door, because that's how it all starts, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. Here's the thing, and this is the last I'll say. I've never sold anything. I've never tried to sell I've never tried to sell Shakeology. I've never tried to do it. I just come from my place and my conviction, and people tend to migrate to that, and then they eventually ask you, hey, you know, there's nothing more powerful than asking someone a question. How are you feeling? How are you sleeping? How are you, you know, that's the just connecting with people, for sure. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Way to go, Minnesota. Yeah.
Here for you. All right. Thank you, Darin. Have a good night.
You're welcome. You
Bye.
too.